And I'm officially live. It's 1 o'clock. 1 a.m. How about them apples? It is live, isn't it? I don't know what's going on because for some reason my chat isn't showing up here. That's strange. I'm going to stop this stream and restart it, okay? Well, wait a second. Yes, I'm going to stop and start again. There we go. Live and at it again. Now the chat is working, so I will be able to see all of your comments. I will be able to respond in due time as soon as they appear. And we can have some fun tonight. Oh my, I forgot to turn on the fan in here, so it's a little warm. Let me do that real quick, okay? And there we are. I do love a nice fan, and the fan in this room is absolutely, positively wonderful. And yes, Amber, now it works. That is 100% true. So, hello everyone. I see Trisha is a part of this as well now, and so is Renee. To Trisha, huzzah! And to Renee, huzzah! Thank you for being here, both of you. And oh, of course, Amber, to you, huzzah! And to the Russian fairy tales we're about to enjoy, huzzah! My evening has been all right. Not terrible. Decent is a word for it. Oh, excuse me. Anyway, thanks for asking, Amber. Anyway, hey, if you're watching, welcome. Welcome to Storytime. We're going to have a good time tonight. You know, it's a little late, but that's okay. I told you all it would be late. I had some video editing to take care of. Now that's all done. I just have to render the video. So I figured, let me do Storytime first, then start rendering the video, because that's going to take a while. And doing so will probably slow down, if not make the stream completely ineffective. It will very much slow it down, and so I might be choppy, and it, like I said, might not work at all, because it takes a lot of memory. Oh, plus, for some reason, my version of Adobe Premiere Pro CS6 isn't getting recognized, so Adobe thinks it's illegitimate. And every time I'm logged on to every time I'm on the internet while using it, it kicks me off. So that's dumb. So I have to be off the internet to render anyway. Again, dumb. But what can you do? I'll just be offline while I use Premiere, which is what I usually do anyway. But anyway, enough of those troubles. I figured I'd do that rendering after this, so that while I'm sleeping, my computer's memory and all that can be taken up rendering the video, and all will be well in the world. So, once again, welcome to Storytime. We're going to have a good time tonight. Tonight, gonna have myself a real good time. I feel alive. Sorry for breaking into that. I love that song. That just kind of popped in my head when I said that. So, if you haven't already, join the Facebook group Storytime. 2 words, exclamation point at the end. If you haven't already, like this video now and hit subscribe. My channel is Beepercorny1 on YouTube. And yes, don't forget it. Like, subscribe, and share it with all of your friends. And yes, Amber, it's silk jammies. What else would it be? They're so damn comfy, and they're wonderful, and everyone should have a pair. I'm thinking about getting a massage chair, because that would be awesome. And can you imagine if I were just like leaning back in a massage chair while I was reading stories to you all? Wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't that be great? Back to the woot comment. Anyway, enough of all that. Also, follow me on Twitch, Brett Doesn't Game. 1 word, even though it's 3 words, but they're all smooshed together into one, so there are no spaces, no apostrophes, no punctuation of any kind. Just Brett Doesn't Game, all spelled out. So, Oh, they are comfy AF. They are very comfy AF. Anyway, follow me on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch, because I'm streaming on all three. You're right, my voice would vibrate in a comfy leather massage chair, but it would be fantastic. I see Danielle has joined in. Hello, Danielle. Huzzah! And yes, before we get started on the stories, do please leave some comments. If you comment, you will get a huzzah and you will get a shout out. So, don't forget to do that. And once again, invite all your friends, okay? Invite them, because we want them to join in on the fun too. But I've done enough yabbering, yammering on, whatever the terminology is. Enough chatting. It's time to get to the meat of tonight's session. The meat. We've had some of the potatoes, but now it's time for the meat. And now Danielle has left a comment. Hello, Danielle. This is your official shout-out and another huzzah in your name. So, shall we? Shall we get to some Russian fairy tales? Oh, this one is going to be Ivanko. It's about Ivanko. We've read about Ivanko before. Oh, but in this case, Ivanko is the son of a bear, because the story is called Ivanko the Bear's Son. This should be interesting. Well, most of them have been rather interesting. That's a word that can definitely be used. And Renee, you have now commented, which means you get another special shout-out and an extra huzzah! Yes, I love some Russian fairy tales as well. Oh, you just love some fairy tales. Well, right now we're reading the Russian ones, which are interesting to say the least. But shall we get to it? Here we are. Ivanko the Bear's Son. I feel like I should add some sort of fairy tale music for this. And I see, let's see here. Melissa has joined as well. Melissa, huzzah! Thank you for being here. But yeah, I do. I feel like we should add some sort of fairy tale music. So let me look up. I have an idea. Music. There we go. For fairy tales. Yes, this ought to do just fine. Tell me if you think something else would work better, but I think this is absolutely fitting for fairy tales. Even though there's some action in these Russian fairy tales from time to time, but this is very, like magical or whatever sounding, because it's the harp. I love the harp. So, here we go. Ivanko, the Bear's Son. I've wasted enough time already. In a certain village there lived a wealthy peasant and his wife. One day the wife went to the forest for mushrooms, lost her way, and stumbled into a bear's den. The bear kept her with him, and after some time, a long time or a short time, she had a son by him. Oh, dear. All right. This son was a man down to the waist and a bear below the waist. His mother called him Ivanko the Bearlet. Years went by, and when Ivan grew up, he wanted to go away with his mother and live with the peasants in the village. They waited until the bear went to a beehive, made ready, and ran away. Lindsay Sterling crystallized. Is that a song, Amber? Tell me more about it. Perhaps we'll do it in a bit. Years went by. Oh, yes, I already read that. Made ready and ran away. They ran and finally came to their own village. The peasant saw his wife and was overjoyed. He had given up hope that she would ever return. Then he beheld her son and asked, "Who is this freak?" His wife told him all that had happened, how she had lived in the bear's den and had a son by him, and that this son was human to the waist and a bear from the waist down. "Well, Bearlet," said the peasant, "go to the backyard and slaughter a sheep. We must make dinner for you. And which one shall I slaughter? Whichever one stares at you." Violin is lovely. Ivanko the Bearlet took a knife, went out to the yard, and called the sheep. All of them began to stare at him. He forthwith slaughtered them all, skinned them, and went to ask the peasant where he should store the skins and the meat. "What's this?" yelled the peasant. "I told you to slaughter one sheep, and you've slaughtered all of them." "No, father, you told me to slaughter whichever one stared at me. But when I came out into the yard, all of them, without exception, began to stare at me." "You certainly are a clever fellow. Take the meat and skins into the barn, and at night guard the door against thieves and dogs." "Very well, I will guard it." It so happened that on that night a storm broke, and the rain fell in buckets. Ivanka the bailiff broke the door off the barn, took it into the bathhouse, and spent the night there. Thieves took advantage of the darkness. They found the barn open and without a guard, so they took whatever they pleased. Next morning the peasant arose, went to see whether everything was in order, and found that nothing was left. What the thieves had not taken, the dogs had eaten up. He looked for the guard, found him in the bathhouse, and began to chide him even more severely than the first time. "But, father, it is not my fault," said Ivanko. "You yourself told me to guard the door, and I did guard it. Here it is. The thieves did not steal it, nor did the dogs eat it up." "What can I do with this fool?" thought the peasant to himself. "If this goes on for a month or two, he will ruin me completely. I wonder how I can get rid of him." Then he hit open an idea. The next day he sent Ivanko to the lake and told him to wind ropes of sand. In that lake dwelt many devils, and the peasant hoped that they would drag him into the water. Ivanko the bailiff went to the lake, sat on the shore, and began to wind ropes of sand. Suddenly a little devil jumped out of the water and asked, "What are you doing here, bailiff?" "Can't you see? I'm winding ropes. I want to thrash the lake and torment you devils because you live in our lake but do not pay any rent." "Wait a while, bailiff. I'll run and tell my grandfather," said the little devil, and flop, he jumped into the water. 5 minutes later, he was out again and said, "Grandfather said that if you can run faster than I, we'll pay the rent. If not, he told me to drag you down into the lake." "Aren't you a nimble fellow?" said Ivanka, "but you cannot hope to run faster than I. Why, I have a grandson who was born only yesterday, and even he can outrun you. Do you want to race with him?" "What grandson?" "He is lying there behind a bush," said the bailiff, and cried to a hare, "Hey, hare, do not fail me." The hare darted off into the open field like mad, and in a trice vanished from sight. The devil rushed after him, but it was of no use. He was half a verst behind. "Now, if you wish," said Ivanko, "race with me, but on one condition. If you lag behind, I will kill you." "Oh, no," said the devil, and once more flopped into the water. After a while, he jumped out, carrying his grandfather's iron crutch, and said, "Grandfather said that if you can throw this crutch higher than I can, he will pay the rent." "Well, you throw first." The devil threw the crutch so high that it was hardly visible. It fell back with a terrible rumble and thrust half its length into the ground. "Now you throw it," said the devil. The bailiff took the crutch in his hand and could not even move it. "Wait a while," he said. "A cloud is coming near. I shall throw the crutch on it." "Oh, no, that won't do. Grandfather needs his crutch," said the little devil. He snatched the crutch and rushed into the water. After a while, he jumped out again, saying, "Grandfather said that if you can carry this horse around the lake at least one time more than I can, you will pay the rent. If not, you will have to go into the lake." "Is that supposed to be hard? All right, begin," answered Ivanko. The devil heaved the horse onto his back and dragged it around the lake. He carried it 10 times till he was exhausted, and sweat streamed down his snout. "Well, now it's my turn," said Ivanko. He mounted the horse and began to ride around the lake. He rode so long that finally the horse collapsed under him. "Well, brother, how was that?" he asked the little devil. "I must admit," said the devil, "that you carried it more times than I, and in what a strange fashion, between your legs. That way I couldn't have carried it even once. How much rent must we pay?" "Just fill my hat with gold and work for a year as my laborer. That's all I want." The little devil ran to fetch the gold. Ivanko cut the bottom out of his hat and placed it above a deep pit. The devil kept bringing gold and pouring it into the hat. He worked at this for a whole day, and only by evening was the hat filled. Ivanko the bailiff got a cart, loaded it with gold coins, had the devil drag it home, and said to the peasant, "Now be happy, father. Here is a laborer for you, and gold too." What a wonderful son that bailiff is. Well, stepson, but still, what a wonderful stepson that bailiff was. So I suppose you could say that the moral of that story is don't be too hasty in your judgments. For yes, don't be too hasty in your judgments, because although Ivanko made a few rather poor decisions, he did effectively make a really, really smart play in the end. Yeah, he tricked the devil. He tricked the devil, and that's always a good thing, right? Especially when it works out. So there's that. I'm going to have a gummy or two. So, let us read another Russian fairy tale. The next one is called The Secret Ball. Delicious. Elderberry. It's wonderful. So good. Like I said, if you want a shout out, please simply leave a comment. Okay? That's all there is to it. Let's put that woot woot back on the screen. So, this next fairy tale is called The Secret Ball. Now, I have to wonder, when it says the secret ball, is it talking about a ball you physically hold? Or is it talking a ball as in, people in fancy dress who dance and have drinks and stuff? It was a pretty cool story, wasn't it? A nice change of pace from a lot of these other Russian fairy tales. Shout out to John and Scarlet! Huzzah, John! And huzzah, Scarlet! Don't you all want shout-outs and huzzahs? I can't think of anyone who wouldn't. But I'm glad to hear they love watching the story time. I love being able to do it for all of you. So, here we go. The Secret Ball. There was once a widowed king who had 12 daughters, one more beautiful than the other. All right. Every night these princesses went away, no one knew whither. And every night each of them wore out a new pair of shoes. The king would not get shoes for them fast enough, and he wanted to know where they went every night and what they did there. So he prepared a feast, summoned kings and princes, noblemen, merchants, and simple people from all lands, and said, "Can anyone solve this riddle? He who solves it will receive his favorite princess in marriage, and half the kingdom as a dowry." However, no one would undertake to find out where the princesses went at night, except one needy nobleman who said, "Your royal majesty, I will find out." "Very well, find out." Smile, such a huge smile, I'm glad to hear it. Soon the needy nobleman began to doubt and thought to himself, "What have I done? I have undertaken to solve this riddle, yet I do not know how. If I fail now, the king will put me in prison." He went out of the palace and walked outside the town with a sad face. He met an old woman who asked him, "Why are you so sad, my good man?" He answered, "Grandmother, how can I help being sad? I have undertaken to find out for the king whither his daughters go every night." "Well, you should just follow them, dum-dum." "Yes, it is a difficult task, but it can be accomplished. Here is an invisible cap. With its help, you can find out many things. But mind you, when you go to bed, the princesses will give you a sleeping potion. However, turn your face to the wall, pour the drops into your bed, and do not drink them." The nobleman thanked the old woman and returned to the palace. At nightfall, he was assigned a room next to the princess's bedroom. He lay on his bed and made ready to watch. Then one of the princesses brought him sleeping drops and wine, and asked him to drink to her health. He could not refuse, took the cup, turned to the wall, and poured it into his bed. On the stroke of midnight, the princesses came to see whether he was asleep. The nobleman pretended to be sleeping so soundly that nothing could rouse him, but actually he was listening to every rustle. "Well, little sister," said one of them, "our guard has fallen asleep. It is time for us to go to the ball. It is time, high time." I guess it's the second kind of ball. Unless they're going to the woods to play with some sort of secret ball that's actually a ball. I suppose that is possible, knowing this is a Russian fairy tale. But let us see. Let us wait and see. They dressed in their best garments. Oh, it's looking like the dance kind of ball. The oldest sister pushed her bed to one side and disclosed a passage to the underground kingdom. to the realm of the accursed king. They began to climb down a ladder. The nobleman quietly rose from his bed, donned the invisible cap, and followed them. Accidentally, he stepped on the youngest princess's dress. She was frightened and said to her sisters, "Ah, little sisters, someone seems to have stepped on my dress. This is a bad omen." "Don't worry, nothing will happen to us." They went down the ladder and came to a grove where golden flowers grew. The nobleman picked one flower and broke off a twig, and the whole grove rumbled. "Ah, little sisters," said the youngest princess, "do you hear how the grove is rumbling? This bodes no good. Fear not, it is the music in the accursed kingdom's palace." They came to the palace and were met by the king and his courtiers. The music began to play, and they began to dance. They danced till their shoes were torn to shreds. The king ordered wine to be served to the guests. The nobleman took a goblet from the tray, drank the wine, and put the goblet in his pocket. At last the party was over. The princesses said farewell to the cavaliers, promised to come the next night, returned home undressed, and went to sleep. The next morning the king summoned the needy nobleman. "Well," he said, "have you discovered what my daughters do every night?" "I have." "Then where do they go?" "To the underground kingdom, to the accursed king, and there they dance all night." The king summoned his daughters and began to question them. "Where were you last night?" The princesses denied everything. "We did not go anywhere," they said. "Have you not been with the accursed king? This nobleman testifies against you and is ready to offer proof." "Father, he cannot offer proof, for he slept like the dead all night." "Oh, did he now?" The needy nobleman drew the golden flower and the goblet from his pocket. "Here," he said, "is the proof." The princesses had no choice but to confess everything to their father. He ordered the passage to the underground kingdom to be walled up, married the needy nobleman to his youngest daughter, and all of them lived happily ever afterward. Did they? Did they really? I question this. I know it was an accursed king, apparently, but it seemed like the daughters of the king were having a wonderful time by being able to go and dance in that other kingdom. It didn't say why the king was accursed. Just said he was the accursed king in the underground kingdom. Maybe their souls were at stake or something. I don't know. I have no idea what the moral was of that story, and I have no idea why the ending was happy. Because, well, I'm just confused by that one. Either way, let's go ahead and read one more, and then we'll move on to an original. This one is... Oh, by the way, there is an illustration for that last story. I'm wondering if that has something to do with the fact that he got married to that daughter. Look at that. Does that not look a little bit suggestive? Or am I just tired and seeing things? Either way, let's move on to the next story. The Indiscreet Wife. Once upon a time there lived an old man with his wife. They built weirs in the river and put a basket in each one. Then they went home. On the way, the old woman saw a treasure and immediately began to tell everyone about it. What could the old man do? He decided to play a trick on her, went to the field, caught a hare, then stopped at the river to look at his traps. He found a pike in one of them. He took it out and put the hare in its place. Then he carried the pike into the field and laid it among the peas. When he got home, he asked his wife to go with him to pick peas. They made ready and went. On the way, the old man said, "There is a rumor that fish are now living in the fields and that the beasts have moved to the river." "What nonsense, old man." They came to the field. "But the rumor is true," cried the old man. "Look here, a pike has crawled into our peas." "Catch him." The old man took the pike, put it into his basket, and said, "Now let us go to the river and see whether there is anything in our traps." He took out a trap and said, "Now you see, what people are saying is true. Look, a hare has fallen into the trap. Hold him tight, or he may jump back into the water." The old man took the hare and said, "Now let us go and get our treasure." Reread what? Sorry, I'm lost, Amber. Anyway, back to it. They took all the money and drove home. On the way, the old woman saw a bear tearing a cow apart and said, "Hey, old man, look, that is a bear tearing a cow to pieces." "Be quiet, wife. That is the devil thrashing our baron." They came home. The old man went to hide the money, and the old woman ran to tell the news to her neighbor. The neighbor told it to the steward, and the steward told it to the baron, who called the old man before him and said, "Have you found a treasure?" "Why, no, but your wife says you have." "Well, it won't be her first lie." The baron sent for the old woman and asked her, "Is it true, old woman, that you have found a treasure?" "We have, little father." "Then why, old man, do you say that you have not?" asked the baron. The old man turned to his wife and said, "You foolish woman, why are you lying? Where have we found a treasure?" "What do you mean, where?" "In the field, of course. It was on the same day that we found a pike swimming in the peas and a hare caught in our fish trap." "Ah, you old hag, did anyone ever see a pike living in a field and a hare swimming in the water? Have you forgotten everything?" And at the same time a devil was thrashing our baron. The baron boxed his ears. "What are you raving about, fool? When did the devil thrash me?" "But he did, I swear he did." The baron grew angry, ordered rods to be brought in, and had her punished in his presence. The good woman was laid down and lashed, but she kept saying the same things even under the blows. The baron spat with disgust and drove the old couple out of her house. I don't know if there's any moral to that story, but it wasn't a happy one, that's for sure. Strange. A strange story indeed. Maybe it's saying don't be too honest, because, you don't want to tell anyone if you found a big treasure like that, although I don't know if it would be such a bad thing. I mean, turning it into the proper authorities could be beneficial. Whatever, who knows. Either way, let's move forward. Like I told you, I'm going to do an original story now, and okay, that's what you're talking about. All right. I'm going to do an original story now. For that, I'm going to turn off the harp music because, it's not really that kind of mood. In fact, let me look up a more suitable music. I don't know if there is one, really. So I'll just read it a cappella, so to speak. And I'm going to have to watch that video later. So anyway, this is another part of my story, Dark World. And this is the 4th chapter. And it's called Xander Davis, which I suppose is the name of the character. But anyway, here we are. And I'm going to switch accents for this, by the way. So let me know if you like it. Death is strange. If you're reading this, trust me, you wouldn't understand. I wouldn't say it's as bad as you might think, but you know what? I'll leave the mystery for you to find out yourself one day. Until then, maybe try not to do what I did. Okay, so I'm guessing you want to know my story, seeing as you're still here and all. I get it. We always ask, how did he or she die? Well, it's a story, okay? So we'll start from square one. I was 19 when I sold my first, shall we say, ill-gotten good. I didn't do it on purpose. That is, I did it on purpose, but I didn't explicitly set myself out with the purpose of doing it. See, I lived in a rough neighborhood at the time. My roommate was a drug dealer, and he wasn't very creative with where he hid his stash. One day, I'm looking out the window when I see him come running like a cat from water up to the front door of the complex. He never made it to the door. The thing about cats is they can't exactly outrun the water if it's being sprayed from a hose. In the same way, my roommate couldn't outrun the bullets being sprayed at him. Lucky for me, whoever did it didn't look up to see if anybody was watching out the windows. So, I was now in a predicament. Dead drug dealer roommate, drugs in freezer. It could only be assumed that I was his accomplice or something like that. I wasn't. Really, I wasn't. It was just the cheapest room I could find, and I was in my second year of college. Well, I don't want cops coming in my place, finding the drugs and saying they're mine, so I took them. I put them in my bag, left out the back of the complex, and called my friend David. Dave, I'm in trouble. You? What, your underwear get a hole in it? My roommate was just gunned down outside. In saying this out loud, I realized just how little I was affected by that course of events. That was a little disturbing. Shit, you call the cops? Hell no. They're probably on the way anyway. That many gunshots? Someone likely called. I just need to get away. How far are you from your place? About 100 yards from the back door. Not very far. Okay. Are you walking in a straight line from the building? Yeah, why? Should I run? No, don't run. But go ahead and turn right on the next street up ahead instead of crossing. Walk a few blocks, catch a bus onto campus, first one you can, but don't be in a hurry, okay? You call me if anybody tries to follow you. You call me if you see anybody try to follow you or talk to you. You got it, Davy. David and I weren't all that alike, but we've been best friends since the second grade. That's not something you throw away. I was always more clean-cut, level-headed, and he was more of a leader. Always more mischievous, too. I know, it's a classic tale that's been told before, but there's a reason those stories are told and retold. They just keep happening. So I did exactly what he told me. I got on the first bus I could to campus, and when I got there, he was waiting for me. Alex, he said, and pulled me into a warm embrace. This is Georgie. His thumb jerked back like an unenthusiastic hitchhiker who wasn't really sure he needed a ride. Walk with me. Yeah, sure thing. Hey, Georgie. Georgie was athletic, not big and bulky like your typical goon, but slender, fit. He didn't actually look menacing at all. So what? So why are we on campus? Why wouldn't we be? You're not even a student, Dave. David laughed. But you are. Hell, you spend most of your day studying now. It's not surprising the only time you have for an old friend is a few minutes outside the library. So what's in the bag? Didn't tell me you were packing for a trip. Ah, let's just say my roommate left me a few things, and I don't really want them landing in someone else's hands. David stopped and glanced over at me. He snapped his fingers. Georgie! Before I knew it, his boy had a wad of cash out of his pocket and stuffed into mine. Why don't you let me hold on to it for you? As I started to open the bag, he stopped me. Just give me the whole bag. If there's anything important, I'll make sure you get it back. To an outsider, he looked nonchalant as he said this, but knowing David as long as I did, I could tell he was serious, and I trusted him not to screw me over. The laptop in that bag was basically my life, but hey, maybe this mountain of moolah could buy me a new one if I really needed. What hadn't occurred to me until a little later was that I'd just inadvertently added drug dealer to my list of occupations. Okay, that was chapter 1. That was square 1. That's enough for now. Go ahead, check in with one of the other characters, okay? And that, readers/listeners/viewers, is the end of that chapter of the story. So, hope you enjoyed it. Oh, I'm glad to hear that you love my original stories, Amber. I appreciate that very much so. Hope you liked that one too. It was a short one, but it existed. It was there. And it was another piece of the bigger puzzle. Perhaps one day I'll read the whole thing to you all. Admittedly, though, that's as far as I've gotten in that one. Good night, I'm not done yet. I'm just done with that story. I'm going back to more Russian fairy tales. Oh, unless you are leaving for the night, in which case, good night. But if you're not, I promise you I'm not yet. I'm going to read probably 2, maybe 3 more stories. We'll make it 2. We'll make it 2 more stories because that next one is pretty long. But I'm going to read 2 more stories for you all. So, stick around if you can. Oh, yes, only because the third one... Oh, wow, if I read a third one, that wouldn't be really long. Wow, still. Goodness gracious, this is probably one of the longest Russian fairy tales I've seen in this whole book. So, 2 stories it is for tonight. And then tomorrow we'll read that other one, and maybe a few more. So here we go. This one is called The Cheetah Cheated. Yes, give Scarlet that bath. Do it. But anyway, the cheetah cheated. Just before we read it, I have to wonder, does that mean the cheetah did what a cheetah does and they cheated on something? Or was the cheetah cheated out of something? Curious to find out. Let us see. There was once a merchant who had a son. One day the merchant sent his son to the city to buy merchandise and instructed him, "Mind you, little son, be careful and don't make friends with redheads." Well, that's not cool. The merchant's son set out on his way. It was a cold day. He felt chilly and stopped at an alehouse to warm himself. No, warm, not warn, sorry. When he entered, he found a red-headed servant pouring out liquor. "Pour me a glass of good liquor," said the merchant's son to him. He drank it and found it very much to his taste. "That's fine liquor," he said. "It's worth 100 rubles. Pour me another glass." He drank the second glass, and it seemed even better. "Well, brother," he said, "this glass is worth 200 rubles." The man behind the counter was quick-witted. He wrote on the wall the sums mentioned by the merchant's son. When the time came to pay the bill, the merchant's son said, "How much do I owe you?" 300 rubles. "Are you out of your mind to charge me such a price? You set the price yourself, and now you're trying to go back on your word? No, brother, you can't wriggle out of it. Unless you pay, I will not let you go." There was nothing to be done. The merchant's son paid 300 rubles, went on his way, and thought to himself, "I'll remember not to make friends with redheads. My father spoke the truth, and one should always listen to one's parents." That bartender was a bastard. At that very moment he met a red-headed peasant driving a cart. When the merchant's son saw him, he jumped out of his carriage and lay flat in the snow, trembling with fear. "What's the matter with him?" the peasant wondered. He went over to the merchant's son and tried to raise him to his feet. "Get up, brother," he said. "Let me alone. One redhead cheated me, you'll cheat me too. Don't be foolish, brother. There are redheads of all kinds. Some are cheats, some are honest. But who cheated you?" "So-and-so, the red-headed man who serves liquor in the neighborhood village. Come back with me, I'll take care of him." They returned to the alehouse. The peasant cast a glance around him and noticed that a shoulder of mutton was hanging from the main beam. He went to the servant, asked for a glass of vodka, and at the same time tapped him on his shoulder and said, "How about selling me that shoulder? I'll sell it for a ruble." The peasant gave him a ruble, then drew a big knife from his pocket and gave it to the merchant's son, saying, "Now, brother, cut off his shoulder. I'll have it with my vodka." "Are you crazy?" said the servant. "I told you the shoulder of mutton, not my shoulder. Don't tell me any such stories. You won't cheat me as you cheated this merchant's son. I'm no fool." The servant began to beg and implore him, bowing almost to the ground. "Very well," said the peasant. "I will forgive you if you will return all the money to the merchant's son." The servant returned the 300 rubles, and that was what the peasant wanted. "You see," he said to the merchant's son, "there are redheads of all kinds, cheats and honest people. Now go in peace." The merchant's son was glad to go. He got in his carriage, spurred his horses, and said to himself, "Thank God I got away. The red-headed servant is a cheat, but this peasant is an even greater cheat. If I had become friendly with him, he would surely have skinned me alive." What? 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 Once more, what? So, you get cheated by one person who has red hair. Then a second person who has red hair does you right, helps you get your money back, gives it to you, doesn't ask for anything in return. And when you leave, your conclusion is, "Thank God I got away from that crazy fucker. He would have skinned me alive." What the fuck kind of story was that? I'm appalled by that one. That's ridiculous. All right, let's move on to the next one. That left a bad flavor in my mouth. The next one is called The Maiden Tsar. Let's hope this is better. In a certain land, in a certain kingdom, there was a merchant whose wife died, poor merchant, leaving him with an only son, Ivan. Ivan, what a unique name. He put this son in charge of a tutor, and after some time took another wife. And since Ivan, the merchant's son, was now of age and very handsome, his stepmother fell in love with him. Oh, come on. One day Ivan went with his tutor to fish in the sea on a small raft. Suddenly they saw 30 ships make toward them. On these ships sailed the Maiden Tsar with 30 other maidens, all her foster sisters. When the ships came close to the raft, all 30 of them dropped anchor. Ivan and his tutor were invited aboard the best ship. When the maiden saw, and her 30 foster sisters received them, she told Ivan that she loved him passionately and had come from afar to see him, so they were betrothed. Wait, she's already married to his father, what? The maiden Tsar told the merchant's son to return to the same place the following day, said farewell to him, and sailed away. Ivan returned home and went to sleep. The stepmother led the tutor into her room, made him drunk, and began to question him as to what had happened to him and Ivan at sea. Wait a second. Maiden Tsar. Wait, who's the maiden Tsar? I'm a little confused. I guess the stepmother and the maiden Tsar are different people. I'm going to guess that's the case. The tutor told her everything. Upon hearing his story, she gave him a pin and said, "Tomorrow, when the ships begin to sail toward you, stick this pin into Ivan's tunic." The tutor promised to carry out her order. Next morning, Ivan arose and went fishing. As soon as his tutor beheld the ships sailing in the distance, he stuck the pin into Ivan's tunic. "I feel so sleepy," said the merchant's son. "Listen, tutor, I will take a nap now, and when the ships come close, please rouse me." "Very well, of course I will rouse you," said the tutor. The ships sailed close to the raft and cast anchor. The maiden Tsar went for Ivan, asking him to hasten to her, but he was sound asleep. The servants began to shake him, pinch him, and nudge him, all in vain. They could not awaken him, so they left him. Sorry, Joy, that you can't stay. But that's all right. We will miss you. Much love, Smoochy Smoochy. And huzzah! Thank you for joining for as long as you could. You have a great night as well. They could not wake him, so they left him. The maiden Tsar told the tutor to bring Ivan to the same place on the following day, then ordered her crews to lift anchor and set sail. As soon as the ships sailed away, the tutor pulled out the pin, and Ivan awoke, jumped up, and began to call to the maiden Tsar to return, but she was far away then, and could not hear him. He went home, sad and aggrieved. His stepmother took the tutor into her room, made him drunk, questioned him about everything that had happened, and told him to stick the pin through Ivan's tunic again the next day. What a bitch. You're married, stepmother, and that's your stepson. Come on now. The next day Ivan went fishing, again slept all the time, and did not see the maiden Tsar. She left word that he should come again. On the third day he again went fishing with his tutor. They came to the old place and beheld the ships sailing at a distance, and the tutor straightway stuck in his pin, and Ivan fell sound asleep. The ships sailed close and dropped anchor. The maiden Tsar sent for her betrothed to come aboard her ship. The servants tried in every possible way to rouse him, but no matter what they did, they could not waken him. The maiden Tsar learned of the stepmother's ruse and the tutor's treason, and wrote to Ivan telling him to cut off the tutor's head, and, if he loved his betrothed, to come and find her beyond thrice 9 lands in the thrice 10th kingdom. The ships had no sooner set sail and put out to sea than the tutor pulled the pin from Ivan's garment. He awoke and began to bemoan his loss of the maiden Tsar, but she was far away and could not hear him. The tutor gave him her letter. Ivan read it, drew out his sharp saber, and cut off the wicked tutor's head. Then he sailed hurriedly to the shore, went home, said farewell to his father, and set out to find the thrice 10th kingdom. He journeyed onward, straight ahead, a long time or a short time. I forgot to add the music back. There we are. Kingdom. Let me skip forward a bit because we have moved forward a bit in the story. Yep. There we are. We've caught up on the music now. He journeyed onward straight ahead a long time or a short time, for speedily a tale is spun, but with less speed a deed is done. I like that. That's cool. Speedily a tale is spun, but with less speed a deed is done. And finally came to a little hut. It stood in the open field, turning on chicken eggs. He entered and found Baba Yaga, the bony-legged. "Fie, fie," she said. "The Russian smell was never heard of nor caught sight of here, but now it has come by itself. And are you here of your own free will, or by compulsion, my good youth? Largely of my own free will, and twice as much by compulsion. Do you know, Baba Yaga, where lies the thrice 10th kingdom? No, I do not, she said, and told him to go to her second sister. She might know. Ivan thanked her and went on farther. He walked and walked, a long distance or a short distance, a long time or a short time, and finally came to a little hut exactly like the first, and there too found a Baba Yaga. Fie, fie, she said. The Russian smell was never heard of nor caught sight of here, but now it has come by itself. Are you here of your own free will, or by compulsion, my good youth? Largely of my own free will, and twice as much by compulsion. Do you know, Baba Yaga, where lies the thrice 10th kingdom? No, I do not, she said, and told him to stop at her youngest sister's. She might know. If she gets angry at you, she added, and wants to devour you, take 3 horns from her and ask her permission to blow them. Blow the first one softly, the second louder, and the third still louder. Ivan thanked the Baba Yaga and went on farther. By the way, let me show you the illustration here. There is an illustration. There we go. Kind of cool. Interesting indeed. I have some notes written here, but I don't know if they'll make sense. Yep, don't know what they have to do with anything. So, he walked and walked a long distance or a short distance, a long time or a short time, and finally beheld a little hut standing in the open field and turning upon chicken legs. He entered it and found another Baba Yaga. Fie, fie, the Russian smell was never heard of nor caught sight of here, and now it has come by itself, she said, and ran to wet her teeth, for she intended to eat her uninvited guest. Ivan begged her to give him 3 horns. He blew one softly, the second louder, and the third still louder. Suddenly birds of all kinds swarmed around him, among them the Firebird. Sit upon me quickly, said the Firebird, and we shall fly wherever you want. If you don't come with me, the Baba Yaga will devour you. Ivan had no sooner set himself upon the bird's back than the Baba Yaga rushed in, seized the Firebird by the tail, and plucked a large handful of feathers from it. The Firebird flew with Ivan on its back. For a long time it soared into the skies. Still, finally, it came to the broad sea. I feel like I should be playing the classical song, The Firebird. Maybe I will. Yes, I shall. I think it might. It's not Smetana, is it? The Firebird. Stravinsky. It's Stravinsky, not Smetana. So let me stop this. And the Firebird is now playing in honor of the Firebird. Thank you, Firebird. Take a bow. That is carrying our hero to his destination. Thank you, Mr. Firebird. And here we go. The Firebird flew with Ivan on its back. For a long time, it soared in the skies, till finally it came to the broad sea. Now, Ivan, merchant's son, the thrice 10th land lies beyond this sea. I am not strong enough to carry you to the other shore. Get there as best as you can. Ivan climbed down from the Firebird, thanked it, and walked along the shore. Turn this up. He walked and walked till he came to a little hut. He entered it, and was met by an old woman who gave him meat and drink, and asked him whither he was going, and why he was travelling so far. He told her that he was going to the thrice 10th kingdom to find the maiden Tsar, his betrothed. Ah, said the old woman, she no longer loves you. If she gets hold of you, she will tear you to shreds. Her love is stored away in a remote place. Then how can I get it? Wait a bit. My daughter lives at the Maiden Tsar's palace, and she is coming to visit me today. We may learn something from her. Then the old woman turned Ivan into a pin and stuck the pin into the wall. At night, her daughter flew in. Her mother asked her whether she knew where the Maiden Tsar's love was stored away. I do not know, said the daughter, and promised to find out from the Maiden Tsar herself. The next day, she again visited her mother and told her, on this side of the ocean there stands an oak. In the oak there is a coffer. In the coffer there is a hare. In the hare there is a duck. In the duck there is an egg. And in the egg lies the Maiden Tsar's love. Wow! That is something else, isn't it? That's quite a story, quite a place, isn't it? Interesting. That seems like a lot of work, but I suppose love is worth everything, isn't it? Isn't it? You know, you be the judge. So back to the story, shall we? Shall we? Yes, I think we shall. Back to it. Ivan took some bread and set out for the place she had described. He found the oak and removed the coffer from it. Then he removed the hare from the coffer, the duck from the hare, and the egg from the duck. He returned with the egg to the old woman. A few days later came the old woman's birthday. She invited the maiden Tsar with the 30 other maidens, her foster sisters, to her house. She baked the egg, dressed Ivan the merchant's son in splendid raiment, and hid him. At midday the maiden Tsar and the 30 other maidens flew into the house, sat down to table, and began to dine. After dinner the old woman served them each an egg, and to the maiden Tsar she served the egg that Ivan had found. The maiden Tsar ate of it, and at once conceived a passionate love for Ivan the merchant's son. The old woman brought him out of his hiding place. How much joy there was! How much merriment! The maiden Tsar left with her betrothed, the merchant's son, for her own kingdom. They married and began to live happily and to prosper. That was an interesting story indeed. And that's the one that we will leave it at tonight, because it's now 1:55. Firebird. I like Firebirds, and this is a pretty cool song. I haven't heard this version of the Firebird. Perhaps I just haven't ever heard the full version. Regardless, very cool. But I will leave it for tonight. Maybe listen to the whole thing later. Either way, all of you, I am very appreciative that you have joined me for story time, for those of you who did. And those of you who are going to watch it later, that's cool too. Thank you for watching. Either way, make sure you join the Facebook group Storytime, 2 words, exclamation point at the end. Or if you're not already a friend of mine on Facebook, you can friend me there, Brett Corney. There's very few of us. I'm probably the first one to pop up because I'm the best one ever. Right. Anyway, you can also like this video on YouTube if you haven't already. Just do it, okay? There's no point not doing it. I mean, you're still here, so obviously you like the video. And if you give me more likes, then, that'll be good for me. And I'll be happy because you did it. I'll be grateful for you. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Tell your friends about it so they can subscribe as well. BeeperCorny1. And if it so behooves you, you can watch me on Twitch as well. Brett Doesn't Game, all one word. BrettDoesntGame. Yeah. No spaces or apostrophes or any form of punctuation in there. Just all one word. So, much love. Smoochy, smoochy. Appreciate all of you, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful evening. And until next time, I bid you adieu. Huzzah!